Right now at 5, a verdict in the trial of a McDonald County woman charged with murdering her husband.
And we have more severe weather in the forecast. We'll talk about it coming up.
Plus, some local experts weigh in on the influence artificial intelligence could have on this year's election cycle.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Well, good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5 a.m. I'm Elise Noe.
And I'm Lindsay Gaffney.
And it's finally Friday here in the 4 states. Always welcomed, at least for me, it's always welcome. I'm sure hopefully it is for you at home as well. But what's the weather looking like for our Friday, Lindsay?
Unfortunately, the weather actually is looking a little possible severe threat. Okay. We'll go ahead and take a look outside right now at 7th and Range Line. It's clear, partly cloudy skies this morning, but they do clear out for most of the day. Looking pretty good. Calm weather until this evening, and temperatures a little bit warmer still than average. So we're seeing temperatures right now 74 out in Joplin, 73 Pittsburgh, 75 in Chanute. These temperatures are going to continue to drop just over the next couple of hours before starting to warm back up. We still have a couple heat advisories out in Benton County and all of our counties out in Oklahoma as well, northeast Oklahoma. The rest of us still getting warm, heat indices reaching triple digits, but not as high as what they were yesterday or the day before. So we're not expecting any heat advisories for the rest of the day. We had a few storms earlier this evening, or yesterday evening and earlier this morning, but they're starting to clear out. And moving into tonight and even early tomorrow morning, we still have that level 2 out of 5. Yesterday it was just a marginal risk. Today we started to see it expand into a slight risk, especially after in those southern and southwestern counties. Now, the threat is coming in tonight, but storms are expected to last all the way until Saturday morning, even possibly reaching Saturday early afternoon. But I'll have more details coming up.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. We'll see you soon. Well, the verdict is in. Jurors in McDonald County, Missouri, late yesterday have found Dawn Wynn guilty in the shooting death of her husband. KOAM's Shannon Becker was in the courtroom and has more.
The jury returned with a verdict of guilty on both counts. Guilty for Dawn Wynn, murder in the first degree of her husband, Harold Wynn, in November of 2021, and guilty of armed criminal action.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Dawn Wynn, guilty of
12 jurors, 7 men, 5 women, unanimous verdict. Took about 5 hours for them to return here. Now, we do know next date coming up is October 7th at 9 a.m. is sentencing. It'll be a chance for family to express their feelings in open court. However, we already know the sentence. The sentence in Missouri for first-degree murder is life in prison without the possibility of parole. Dawn Wynn showed little to no emotion that we could tell as the sentence was read. She was then cuffed, taken into custody, and walked out of the courtroom quietly. She didn't really even seem to glance around it. The judge thanked the jury for their participation. He also expressed that they were one of the best juries he's ever had and thanked them for their work and patience. In McDonald County, after a 3-day murder trial, guilty for Dawn Wynn. I'm Shannon Becker, KOAM News Now, Joplin News First.
You'll find more details on the case on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. And to be the first to see breaking news, weather, and sports, you can download the KOAM News app. It's available free of charge in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. Just search for the KOAM News app. Well, artificial intelligence has skyrocketed in popularity in recent years, but a Pew Research study found 52% of Americans were more concerned than excited in regards to the growing technology. AI is able to generate images, videos, and audio, but researchers have rising concerns about what AI might be used for this election season. A political science professor at Missouri Southern says there are several examples of the misuse of AI. In February of this year, voters received robocalls with the AI-generated voice of Joe Biden, and some recent photos and videos of crowd sizes at presidential campaign rallies have been found to be the result of AI as well.
That can be really tricky for voters to try to figure out, well, I saw President Biden or I saw former President Trump in a video saying something or doing something, And now they have to figure out whether that is something that really happened or whether someone's messing with them.
AI researchers say there are some ways you can help identify if the technology is being used in an image, video, or audio. They recommend looking at the small details of images and videos where AI still commonly warps. In audio, they say you should listen to the vocal inflections, as oftentimes audio will sound robotic if you're listening closely. Well, this week, Pitt State students are moving in and preparing to kick off the new school year. The start of the school year brings an influx of students, which benefits local businesses. The director of community sales at Ron's Supermarket looks forward to when students come back because it brings new life to the town and local businesses.
I love it when the students are back because it revitalizes town every year and gives us a little bit of a new life every year.
Local stores like Ron's offer discounts to Pitt State students that show their student ID, which is a big help for college students living on limited funds. Well, yesterday was also move-in day for students at Missouri Southern. There were a number of activities on campus to welcome new students, including a pep rally, convocation, and a campus craze. Officials say the residence halls on campus are at 99% capacity.
We weren't expecting rain, especially where I live. We had no idea. It was like super hot when we left, and so when we got here that was a little bit unexpected, but other than that it's been super smooth. The students here have been super helpful so far. I've met my roommates and they seem great. I was able to get into my room, find it. All is well so far.
Classes at Missouri Southern begin on Monday. And that's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News. The Outlaws return to Joplin after winning the Mid-America League Championship. Plus, Taylor Swift's Eras Tour returns after authorities uncovered a terror plot targeting one of the singer's Vienna shows. And we have a hot and partly cloudy day today. We'll have what to expect with Lindsay Gaffney in the Skywatch Weather Center. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back. Wednesday night, the Joplin Outlaws played their 70th game of the summer and saved the best for last. They won the first ever Mid-America League Championship, dominating the Abilene Flying Bison 11-4 on the road. Yesterday afternoon, the Outlaws returned to Joe Becker Stadium in Joplin, cheered on by the fans that packed the stands all year and the host families that house them. In a long season where so many players come and go, Outlaws field manager Brian Daly gives a ton of credit to the handful of players that were part of the team all summer.
I mean, that's 70 games for Summer League is a grind. These guys play 56 on their college schedule over the course of the year, and then they come here for a little over 2 months and knock out 70 and come back with a championship. And those guys, I think we had 6 or 8 of them, somewhere in there. Those guys are awesome. They never complained once, you know, always the early ones here. Usually guys coming through in the clutch for us, and, you know, all that hard work ended up paying off for them.
Now, the Lamar Tigers are coming off a Class II state championship in 2023. Their only loss of the year came to Seneca, who made it to the Class III state title game but finished as runner-up. Yesterday, we hear from both the Indians and the Tigers 2024 squads. We started yesterday morning at Lamar, where thunderstorms forced the Tigers to practice inside. Much like last season, Lamar had several positions to fill on both offense and defense after key contributors graduated in the spring. But head coach Jared Beshore is confident that his veteran players will become leaders.
I mean, there's holes to fill every single year. You know, this year we lose some spots kind of at all levels, you know, at the offensive and defensive line spots, in the second and third level on the defense, and then some skill positions on offense. I mean, every year you got specific holes you need to fill. We're looking, we've got guys that have stepped up and are starting to take those roles. We just got to keep on honing in on our skills and getting better each and every day. You know, like I said, nothing's a finished product, and then hopefully by the end of the year where we.
Elsewhere in the Big 8 Conference, Seneca hit the practice field yesterday afternoon. The Indians come off of a state title appearance in 2023, before falling short in the Class 3 state championship game. Seneca loses a chunk of offensive skill position players from last year's team, but they return plenty of experience on the line of scrimmage.
We return a solid group of offensive and defensive linemen, and I think that's always a really good spot to start your program with, and we're going to rely on those guys heavily early in the season. We've been able to go at it pretty good in practice and kind of put good on good out there, and hopefully it makes us better and gets us ready for week 1.
There's a lot of guys that said this is a rebuilding year for us and that we can't live up to what last year's senior group did, but me and the rest of the guys really think that it's quite the opposite and that we got a really good group coming back.
Administration's first Medicare price negotiation. Of the 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns.
Well, outside 7th and Rangeline, we're not getting any rain out there, but still a few clouds, partly cloudy skies until mid-morning before it clears out. Then temperatures really start to warm right back up. Still a heat advisory in our counties out in northeast Oklahoma and northwest Arkansas. The rest of us still getting pretty warm, but not seeing as high of heat indices as we saw yesterday, therefore not having any heat advisories through this evening. You can see those clouds starting to clear out following the storms that we got last night. And then we're going to have a mostly sunny day today until this evening. We've got another round of severe weather moving in. But until then, sunny all morning long. And then temperatures warming up to upper 80s by noon. So we're a little bit cooler than when we were yesterday. Still high temperatures getting up to 96, 97, 98 across the area. Plus heat index values still reaching possibly up to 100 in the area. So actual temperature is what we're seeing. 96 for a high out in Joplin, 94 in Pittsburgh, 99 in Parsons, and then about 100, 101 in nearly all of our southern counties: Miami, Grove, Jay, Welsh, Veneta, Anderson, Bella Vista. So those are going to continue through today, but we've got a cold front coming in tonight, dropping our temperatures for a high on Saturday down to 89 in Joplin, maybe 90, 94 in Miami, 94 in Independence, and 96 in Sedan. So 96 in Sedan looks like it's the highest temperature on our forecast for Saturday. So we're cooling down after the rain that we get tonight. And you can see we start to see rain chances increase by about 9 to 11 p.m. and then overnight hours, 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. is where we're seeing the highest chances of rain. Now we've got a slight risk for severe weather tonight. That's a level 2 out of 5, what we had yesterday. Same thing today. Again, not a high tornado threat, really not expecting anything in that department, but hail and winds, elevated risk. And you can even see where those little black lines are on the hail. That's hatch zone, so that's where we're expecting significant hail development. Hail getting up to about an inch, inch and a half, and winds gusting up to about 60 miles per hour. So go ahead to look at the future track. We've got winds from the south, and then as those storms start to push in, you can see where that boundary is, and winds are shifting out of the east. This is about 8:30, Nevada, Yates Center, Fort Scott, all of our northern cities getting the heavier chances of rain at first. Then these storms start to shift pretty straight south, maybe a little southeast, into the Joplin Metro, Pittsburgh, Miami, Bella Vista. So this is going to continue into the overnight hours. This is 10:30 tonight. As the first line of storms starts to move in, you start to see a few more clusters behind it. So we're seeing storms developing along the front and behind the front. Those are going to continue and scatter across the area. So we're seeing pretty significant development for isolated storms, isolated thunderstorms popping up, and quite a few. This is continuing until early morning. Like I said, maybe even mid-morning on Saturday, we're going to still see a few scattered and stray isolated storms. So this is about 7:30 in the morning. Joplin still getting some heavy rain. Pittsburgh, Parsons, Chanute, Miami, Bella Vista, those are going to continue to move southeast. And then we finally clear out for the day, probably around 11 to noon on Saturday. And then our high temperature, like I said, only getting up to 92, 93 across the region. Pretty cool on Saturday. And then maybe a slight chance for a few more storms. Right now what we're seeing is just a few showers. Most of the stronger development is going to be east of Springfield on Saturday. But again, we can't rule anything out, so we do still have a low threat for severe weather on Saturday. Then a couple chances of pop-up thunderstorms in the forecast, and temperatures a little bit below average for the start of the week. Now we'll have more coming up.
Topping Health Watch this morning. The Biden administration is unveiling the results of its first ever Medicare drug price negotiation. The White House says Medicare's new power to negotiate drug prices will lead to an estimated $1.5 billion reduction in out-of-pocket costs for seniors when the lower prices take effect in 2026, and an estimated $6 billion in savings for the federal government. The initial round of negotiations focused on 10 of the most widely used and expensive drugs taken by Medicare enrollees. Drug makers have tried to quash the program in federal court, but have proved unsuccessful. A new survey has found that about 2/3 of women worry abortion bans could affect the safety of a potential future pregnancy. They also fear for the safety of someone close to them or believe a ban could threaten their livelihood if an abortion is needed. According to KFF, which conducted the survey, this fear was felt across the political spectrum. The nonprofit surveyed about 4,000 women of reproductive age from mid-May to mid-June. At the time, 14 states had banned abortion and another 6 had gestational limits set between 6 and 15 weeks. According to the survey, nearly 1 in 10 women said they know someone who has had difficulty getting an abortion since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade 2 years ago. More than 2/3 have had to travel out of state for care. Well, it's been declared a global health emergency. The World Health Organization says a deadlier strain of the ongoing outbreak of Mpox in Africa is rapidly spreading there, reaching 4 previously unaffected African countries. So what does this mean for the U.S.? Well, Mandy Gaither has more on what Americans should know about this viral disease.
The World Health Organization is calling it a public health emergency of international concern. In Africa, since the beginning of the year, more than 17,000 cases of Mpox and more than 500 deaths have been reported in 13 African countries. Now there's fear the disease could further spread, possibly outside the continent.
There's a lot of concern about the rapid increase in these cases.
For decades, the disease was mostly found in Africa, but in 2022, it also started spreading in Europe and North America, including the U.S. To help slow the spread in Africa, experts say there needs to be more testing to detect cases, improved public health messaging, Mpox vaccines, and medicine to treat the disease must also be readily available.
Access to all of these things will certainly be improved with this public health emergency of international concern declaration.
The CDC says so far in 2024, a total of 1,122 Mpox cases involving the less severe strain have been reported in the U.S. There have been no cases reported in the U.S. of the deadlier strain spreading in Africa. The agency says the anticipated risk of this strain of the disease spreading from Africa to the U.S. general population is very low, but the CDC says it has testing, vaccines, and therapeutics if the virus does circulate here. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
And that's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
We have heat advisories still continuing for our northeast counties in Oklahoma and our northwest counties in Arkansas. Heat indices still getting up to about 100 to maximum 105 degrees today. Still temperatures across the region going to be pretty warm. Plus we have a severe threat coming in later, and we'll talk more about that coming up.
Right now at 5:30, a new piece of equipment will help firefighters in Fort Scott save more lives.
Plus we have high temperatures and another severe weather threat coming in later this evening.
Plus, we'll learn why the city fountain in Columbus, Kansas was a bit more bubbly than usual.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Well, good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:29. I'm Elise Noe.
And I'm Lindsay Gaffney.
Yes, and it's the start of the weekend here, but it might not be the best start to the weekend.
Start of the weekend for you.
Yes.
I'll be on the evening news on the weekends. You guys can join for that. But yes, unfortunately, we do have a severe weather threat tonight and even possibly tomorrow night as well. But we'll go ahead and take a look outside 7th and Range Line. Partly cloudy skies to start off the day, but overall today's going to be pretty sunny and clear. We're not expecting much going on until later on this evening, pretty late. So until then, temperatures about 74 out in Joplin, 73 in Neosho, 74 Grove, about mid to lower 70s for our temperatures right now. However, they're going to continue to drop as we start the morning, probably around 6, 7, and then start to warm right back up because we do have heat advisories continuing for our northeast counties in Oklahoma and our northwest counties in Arkansas. Heat index getting up to 100 to 105, so not as high as what we saw yesterday, but still it's going to be pretty warm, pretty muggy out there. The rest of us still going to be hot, not as hot. That requires a heat advisory, but still take precautions. We had a few storms earlier in the morning and last night, but you can see clouds are starting to clear out. We're looking pretty good, but it doesn't last. We've got another severe threat for tonight. It's like we're starting to get into that pattern of pop-up storms and severe weather. We've got a slight risk, so only a level 2 out of 5 risk for our southwestern counties. Main threats: 1-inch hail, 60 miles per hour wind gusts starting around 8 p.m. and continuing all the way until Saturday morning, even all the way until about 7 to 8 a.m. Now, I'll have more details coming up.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. We'll see you soon. Well, Joplin Fire Station number 4 hosted a wet down ceremony yesterday. The public and city officials turned out for the ceremony, which was the second one in successive weeks. Kids also helped the firefighters get the new engine bright and shiny before pushing it into the bay. The tradition of wetting down a new fire vehicle goes all the way back to the 1800s. Well, thanks to the donation of a local business, first responders at the Fort Scott Fire Department will get some new equipment. It's called the Victim Drag Strap. The strap is meant to be worn by the firemen and make the job of rescuing a victim from an emergency situation easier. The strap can also be used to help fellow firefighters. Yesterday, the creators of the equipment were able to show the Fort Scott Fire Department how to properly install, clean, and use the strap in a variety of situations.
So we thought this is going to be something that we can do to help our community. And so we donated those straps, and today they're getting trained on how to use them, and it's something I hope they don't ever have to use, but if the need comes, that they'll be prepared.
The department says they will continue training with the strap and will start implementing it. The Salvation Army of Jasper Newton counties got in on the back to school fun yesterday. The day-long bash provided dinner and snacks, as well as Nerf and gel blasters, video and board games, and a ton of indoor and outdoor activities. Fun for all the kids. One organizer says the goal for the day was to have fun and make some friends.
God is always around, and even when times are tough or it's really hot outside, we can still have fun and enjoy life with our neighbors and friends. And you can always make plenty of friends. Just give people a chance.
The bash was open to the public, and people who attended were encouraged to give a non-perishable item to donate to the Salvation Army food pantry. Well, residents in Columbus, Kansas know when students are headed back to school, not based on the students entering the school, but the foam exiting the city's fountain. Columbus high school seniors kicked off the school year with the annual foam prank. The yearly prank is a way to launch the new school year with some good, clean fun. Well, rain couldn't keep the cattle away from the Interstate County Fairgrounds yesterday morning in Coffeyville, Kansas. This is the 117th year of the fair, and yesterday was the final day of the PRCA Pro Rodeo event. But there's also plenty of livestock shows and exhibits.
So my parents, they both showed when they were little, and they kind of passed it on to us. We've raised cattle our whole lives, and it's just a really fun thing that we've gotten involved in.
Families can enjoy carnival and motocross shows and a whole lot more from now until Saturday after evening. And that's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. A massive earthquake rocks Taiwan and could have been felt up to 5 miles from its epicenter. Plus, Ukrainian troops advance toward Russian cities. We'll have the latest. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. Topping World Watch. With heightened security, Taylor Swift's Eras Tour returned to London's Wembley Stadium yesterday. It comes just days after Austrian authorities uncovered a terror plot targeting one of the singer's Vienna shows. Stephanie Bennett has more.
Taylor Swift returned to the stage Thursday for the first time since a foiled terror plot canceled her Eras Tour shows in Vienna, and security was tight as 90,000 fans made their way into London's Wembley Stadium.
We traveled from the States to go to the Vienna shows, and our shows were canceled. We came to London hoping to still make it happen.
Ahead of the show, people with general admission tickets were not allowed to camp overnight to get a closer spot to the stage. The stadium also put more police officers in place and banned ticketless fans from gathering outside of the concert. The new measures were enough to ease some fans' concerns.
We were a bit scared to come. We were a bit nervous about it after hearing.
Others say excitement over seeing the sold-out show trumped any of their fears.
She's just phenomenal, really. I don't know if there'll be anyone ever like her again.
Last week, Swift was about to perform in Vienna when Austrian officials say they uncovered an ISIS-inspired plot to attack one of the shows. To protect the London concerts, security experts say authorities are taking lessons from 2017, when 22 people were killed by a suicide bomber at an Ariana Grande concert in Manchester, England.
We see a lot of close collaboration with the police forces, with the venue organisers and with security. So they're all acting as one.
About 450,000 Taylor Swift fans are expected to come to these concerts in London, which wrap up next week.
Hurricane Ernesto targeting Bermuda, with conditions expected to deteriorate there today as the storm passes near or over the island by this weekend. In Puerto Rico, Ernesto brought flooding rain and damaging winds, more than 300,000 customers remaining in the dark more than a day after Ernesto swiped by late Tuesday as a tropical storm. Officials say they don't know when power will be fully restored. Ernesto is expected to remain well off the U.S. East Coast, but beachgoers will need to be aware of its swells generating a threat of dangerous rip currents. An earthquake rocks Taiwan yesterday, the 6.3 magnitude quake striking off the country of Yunnan, shaking buildings in the nation's capital of Taipei. The earthquake was said to have been felt up to 5 miles from its epicenter. No immediate reports of damage or casualties has been reported. The quake comes just 4 months after Taiwan was hit with its biggest earthquake in a quarter of a century, which killed 9 people and injured more than 900. Ukrainian troops scored a major victory as they marched deeper into Russian territory. Greg Palcott has more from London.
Ukrainian troops are advancing farther into Russia despite meeting heavier resistance as their surprise assault continues. It's the first foreign invasion of Russia since World War II, and it's rattling Moscow, whose forces haven't been able to stop the offensive. And now Ukraine has won a key strategic victory, capturing the town of Sudzha, putting them within striking distance of Kursk, a major regional city with more than 500,000 people.
We have a new advance. A Ukrainian military commandant's office is being established there. I thank each one of our warriors who ensures all this. Well done.
The Russians are sending more reinforcements, but so far it's not enough. More than 120,000 civilians have evacuated. And on Thursday, officials declared a state of emergency in the Belgorod region, a likely next target for Ukrainian forces.
The situation in the region remains difficult and tense as a result of terrorist attacks by Ukrainian armed forces. There are killed and injured citizens.
But it will be difficult for Ukraine to keep fighting with this intensity if more help from the West doesn't arrive soon. American weapons are thought to be making a big difference in this offensive, and the White House says they'll keep the aid flowing.
This is an administration that has been very focused on making sure that Ukrainians continue to have what they need to beat back against Russia's aggression.
Ukrainian officials say they've taken almost 400 square miles of Russian territory so far, but have no plans for a permanent occupation.
That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. We'll be right back.
Taking a look downtown Joplin, looking pretty good. Clouds are starting to clear out. Looks like we might have a pretty sunrise this morning too. Unfortunately, temperatures warm right back up to the upper 90s and heat index values getting into the triple digits again today, mostly just for our southern counties. So northeast Oklahoma, northwest Arkansas, still all of our counties are going to get up into the triple digit heat index, only getting up to about 105 degrees. But so it's a little bit cooler than yesterday, but not high enough to require a heat advisory for the rest of our counties. Now, as you can see, clouds are starting to shift out following the storms that we got earlier this morning and late last night. And then we're going to have a pretty sunny day. Sunny all morning long, temperatures warming up to the upper 80s by noon, even reaching 90s in some areas. And then, like I said, warming really high up to upper 90s, 96, 97 out in Joplin, and a little bit warmer in those southern counties. And then we've got another severe threat. So you can start to see around 9 p.m., 11 p.m., it starts to increase those rain chances. And then overnight, after midnight, we really see a spike in our rain chance. So we're getting few severe thunderstorms possible tonight. Another slight risk like we saw yesterday. Again, very low tornado threat, but hail and winds, elevated risk. And you can even see where you see those little black lines on the hail. That's a significant hatch zone, meaning it's likely that we're going to see hail in that area. So we've got a threat for about 1-inch size hail and winds gusting up to about 60 miles per hour. So we're going to look at that future track. Clearing out for the day, looking pretty good. And then we've got storms starting to fire up in those northern counties about 8:30. So Nevada, Fort Scott, Yates Center, all of those areas. And then they're going to continue to shift south, moving into southeast Kansas, southwest Missouri, and the Joplin Metro as well. Around 10:30, 11 p.m. You can see a few of those storms are really firing up. So this is right along the boundary. And then behind the boundary, more storms, a cluster of thunderstorms firing up. Now, they're going to continue to move across the area, pretty scattered thunderstorm chances until early in the morning. So this is about 1:30. Still, you can see a few of those isolated storms really strong. So we're expecting that strong to low end severe threat for tonight. Those storms are going to continue 4:30 in the morning and then even all the way until about 7:30, 8 a.m., especially in the Joplin Metro, Pittsburgh, Parsons, Miami, Bella Vista. Those are going to continue to shift, finally moving out of the area around 11 a.m., completely out of our viewing area. And then about 3:30, so our high for the day, about 92, 93 out in Joplin and surrounding counties. So the cold front that we're seeing moving in tonight and early tomorrow morning drops those temperatures pretty significantly. And we do have another slight chance, a low risk for storms Saturday. You can see where a few of those isolated showers are popping up, even near our area, but our main threat for severe weather on Saturday, mostly to the east of us. But we're going to keep an eye on that. Temperatures after tonight drop down. 93 Saturday, 90 on Sunday, 88 on Monday, and we do have a couple of chances for some pop-up evening thunderstorms as well. Now we'll be back with more news after this.
A blockbuster Hollywood prop auction is taking place in Tinseltown. David Daniel gives us a sneak peek in today's Hollywood Minute.
That's Anakin Skywalker. Okay. This is Obi-Wan. All right. And that is Mace Windu.
From Star Wars lightsabers to Harry Potter's Hogwarts acceptance letter, Prop Store's memorabilia auction seemingly has something for every fan.
If you're somebody who is very passionate about a specific film or a franchise, what better way to celebrate that and to connect with that than by owning a little piece of it?
The auction features more than 1,900 items from film and television.
There's a number of different titles represented in this auction, from Star Trek to Star Wars, Ghostbusters, Batman, a lot of your favorites from over the last 50 years.
Everything from Back to the Future to Evil Dead 2 to Beetlejuice.
The Indiana Jones fedora. This came from the stunt performer Dean Ferrandini, and we were able to also match it to Harrison Ford, who played Indiana Jones. He wore it at the same time, so it was a hat that they interchanged between the two. We also have a Biker Scout helmet from Return of the Jedi that's pretty amazing. If you like Stormtroopers, this was the third movie's version of the Stormtrooper. And there's only 2 known. This is the first one that's ever come up for auction.
They're the physical manifestation of that great piece of entertainment that we can't forget, that lives in our minds forever. And to have something that was really there on set as part of the making of the magic is pretty special.
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Well, in San Francisco, a fleet of self-driving taxis caught on camera blaring their horns all through the night, causing residents to lose sleep and patience, I can imagine. Jeremy Roth has today's Take a Look at This.
Watch some sleep-deprived San Francisco residents sound off about a middle-of-the-night honk fest caused by confused robot taxis.
So I was like, where's that coming from? I looked down and I was like, I think it's coming from the Waymo cars.
Randall White is one of many who live in buildings overlooking this parking lot where driverless Waymo taxis return from duty and park, and where, according to him, the self-driving cabs seemingly get confused and honk at one another at all hours of the day or night. A nuisance he and others say has been going on for weeks.
Then it happened again and again, and I started thinking, well, this is an issue.
An issue Waymo says they are aware of, according to a statement sent to KGO News. The company says they have identified the cause and are working to implement a fix. For residents who are wearied by the wailing Waymos, it's a fix that can't come soon enough.
Over the past 2 weeks, I've been woken up more times overnight than I have combined over 20 years.
Another glitch, this one an apparent contractor's mistake, caused a water main break that left this New Jersey home soaked. Authorities say workers accidentally ruptured the pipe, resulting in a huge high-pressure geyser relentlessly hosing down the home. No injuries were reported, but the owners were forced to evacuate while officials work to mop up the mess. Finally, it was a perfectly dry bus that ended up forcing a Pittsburgh resident from his home after authorities say a driver fleeing from police collided with the city bus, sending it crashing into the home's porch. The owner says he's just glad he wasn't out there when it happened.
Usually around the time that this happened, I'm sitting on my front porch. Grace of God, I wasn't today.
For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
We'll stick around. We'll be right back. Well, a rarely seen deep-sea fish was found on the ocean surface. A group of kayakers and snorkelers found the 12-foot-long oarfish Saturday off the coast of San Diego. They strapped the silverfish onto a paddleboard and paddled it into shore before moving it to the back of a pickup truck. Scientists from NOAA Southwest Fisheries Science Center have reportedly planned a necropsy on the creature to determine how it died. That is only the 20th time an oarfish has shown up near California since 1901. Oarfish have a mythical reputation of predicting natural disasters or earthquakes. On the dog days of summer, who better to share a meal with than your pup? A recent report by the Mars's brand reveals only 20% of pet owners in the U.S. and Canada say their neighborhood offers pet-friendly restaurants and cafes. In an effort to improve traveling and dining with your four-legged family member, Mars Pet Care has teamed up with the TripAdvisor to create the first ever Caesar restaurant weekend from today, August 16th, through Saturday, August 17th. Pet parents and their dogs can dine together at some of New York's favorite restaurants. The experience treats culinary canines to a curated menu experience plus extra tableside perks. Humans can go to the TripAdvisor restaurant guide for the suggestions for pet-friendly travel and dining. Bon appetit.
We have some severe threat for today. Hail up to an inch and winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. So those storms are going to roll in after 8 p.m. and continue into the morning on Saturday. They're also along a frontal boundary, which is going to drop temperatures for the weekend down from upper 90s to the lower 90s and even reaching upper 80s for the early half of next week. So we've got those thunderstorms tonight and again tomorrow morning. Some could be strong to low and severe. Until the storms roll in tonight, we also have a heat advisory for our southern counties, so northeast Oklahoma and northwest Arkansas. That continues until about 8 p.m. tonight. Then those storms roll in. After temperatures drop, we're looking pretty good. Maybe a couple chances of pop-up thunderstorms in the evening for the early half of the week. And then temperatures start to warm up again by next weekend. We'll be back after this.